Hi there Waltineers, I'm Jack and this is DSNY Newscast, and today I think it's about time we do another big construction update into everything that's going on at Walt Disney World at the moment. And this construction update is going to be unlike anything that we've done previously here on the channel, and the reason for that is because 2 weeks ago, Disney invited myself and some other members of the media to actually walk the construction site of some of the projects at Walt Disney World. And the projects that we got to go beyond the construction walls at were the Monsters Inc. themed land, otherwise known as Monstropolis, which is being built at Hollywood Studios, and also the magic of Disney animation, which is also taking place at that park as well. And so today I want to share with you everything that I saw from the ground view perspective inside of the construction site for these projects, and also, most importantly, some new details that were shared with us during the construction tour. And as you can probably imagine, this was a very active construction site, so we were wearing hard hats, high-vis vests, all the protective gear to go on the construction site. And as part of that, there was a very strict no photo policy for this construction tour. So the photos that you're going to be seeing on the screen right now were actually taken on the day of the tour, which was May 20th, but obviously from outside of the construction site, from Grand Avenue, the guest area of the park. And also I'm going to be using some of the fantastic aerial construction photos from BioReconstruct over on Twitter and Instagram to help illustrate what I'm talking about here. And where the tour began was we walked in through the back of a former Pizza Rizzo restaurant from Muppets Courtyard. And Imagineering began by explaining to us their ambitions for this Monstropolis project and bringing this world to life. And I've got to say, they are going way beyond what was initially shown within the artwork for Monstropolis. As when that artwork was released back in 2024, I think many of us probably thought that it was going to be a relatively quick retheme of Muppets Courtyard, using most of the existing buildings and just adding a bit of Monsters Inc., theming to the outside of them. But they are going way beyond that with this Monstropolis land. They really want to bring that world of Monstropolis from the movies to life within this area and make it feel like you are actually stepping foot into Monstropolis. So they showed us some streetscape elevation artwork and rendering of the Monstropolis facades within the area. And the thing that stood out to me about this is that it's very thematically rich in terms of storytelling through the architectural design of the buildings themselves. So the building facades are designed for the monsters, for the residents of Monstropolis. So as you can imagine, monsters come in all shapes and sizes, and so do the buildings and the architectural design here. So whether the monsters are tall, small, wide, thin, slimy, round, all of the different types of monsters that you see within Monsters Inc., so are the buildings' design aspects. It's also been distinctly monsterfied, if that makes sense. So the design motifs and the architectural decorative pieces are very much inspired by monster designs. So I remember seeing an archway that looks like the mouth of a monster with the teeth, acting as a kind of a decorative design around the top. And then there's also the tops of the buildings and the railings and stuff like that had jagged edges resembling monsters. But also Imagineering are pulling directly from the Monsters Inc. movies as well to add two-headed pigeons, up on lampposts and things like that. And a stalk, don't stalk crossing sign from the movie, that's going to be within the land as well. But they're actually going beyond and trying to expand the storytelling of the world building out. As you'd expect, you're going to see Mike and Sully's brownstone apartments and the CDA represented within the design of the land here, with the Child Detection Agency having kind of a regional office within one of the facades. But also they're thinking about it from the perspective of what other businesses populate Monstropolis. So you've got the Monsters Inc. company, and to support that company, who makes the canisters, the laugh canisters or the scare canisters? And so therefore there'll be a canister company represented within the land, and also a door repair company, because obviously the door warehouse has wear and tear and the doors need to be repaired by somebody, so therefore they'll have a door repair company. And what this very much reminded me of is actually Zootopia land over at Shanghai Disneyland. A lot of the architectural design of the facades of the buildings here. As with Zootopia over in Shanghai, Imagineering brought that world to life the best they could in terms of representing all the different shapes and sizes of animals within Zootopia. And it was also mentioned by Imagineering that Monstropolis will have character integrated within the land itself. Hearing that and seeing what Imagineering has previously done with Zootopia, I would speculate that we might end up seeing potentially some limited motion animatronics, some digital media in the windows to kind of bring the characters to life in the windows there. I'm just saying that because we've already seen them do it with Zootopia over in Shanghai, and I think it's very possible they might be using a lot of the same techniques here for Monstropolis as well. But obviously, there needs to be a reason for why us humans are within a monster's world. And Imagineering explained that it's going to be known as Human Day, the day that we arrive within Monstropolis, which is an acronym which stands for Humans Understand Monsters Are Nice. So it's an acronym in itself, but it's kind of an outreach program building between the two different worlds here of the human world and the monster world, and explains the reason why we're within this land, and obviously all the cast members working the attractions and the restaurants are there as well. And speaking of restaurants, Pizza Rizzo was also shown within the architectural renderings here, but it had a sign on it that had two monsters either side of a logo, which potentially hints at the new owners of this establishment. So that's clearly the story direction they're going in, which personally I would have preferred them to do Pizza Rozzo, so it would be like a reference back to Pizza Rizzo, but have Roz be the new owner of a pizzeria or something like that within Monsters Inc. I think that would have been quite funny within Monstropolis, but that's the story direction we're going in with Pizza Rizzo. There's two monsters as the owners of this restaurant there. And speaking of Pizza Rizzo, we continue the tour by going upstairs to the balcony and looking out into the construction site. And, you know, it's very much an active construction site, so much of the theming wasn't there. It was the early developmental preliminary stages of getting all of the things in place that they need to. But Imagineering did explain that they are building out a lot of the three-dimensional facades and thematic sets within the land. So it's going to be much more than just painting the exterior of the buildings here. They're building out all new theming, which will add a new dimensional layer to the actual land itself. And one which stood out to me was the mention of the former Muppet Vision 3D show building. You know, there's a big exposed wall there that was relatively unthemed as part of Muppet's Courtyard. And the top of that new section is going to be themed to a Monstropolis train station. And I, again, go back to Zootopia, and I think, are they going to use some of the techniques that they used there with the monorail to kind of bring that train station to life, potentially having some sort of digital windows at the top of that building? I think that'd be great. And speaking of the Muppet Vision 3D building, we still don't have it confirmed what this attraction is going to be within this Monstropolis area, but the exterior of it within the artwork is themed to the Glob Theatre, so some sort of theatre show probably within that, but I'm guessing we'll find out more about that at D23 in August. And then other things to note here about the construction of Monstropolis: the former location of Mama Melrose is going to be becoming the location of the Harryhausen's restaurant. But as you can see in these construction photos from BioReconstruct that were taken on May 29th, the concrete forms outside the front of that restaurant area are going to be supporting the new exterior theming that is going to be accurate to the restaurant facade from the movie. And the other thing that was mentioned here is that the design of the buildings themselves are kind of used to kind of draw people down towards the Monsters Inc. headquarters building, which is where the Monsters Inc. door coaster will be located. And we got to see it from the balcony from afar, but even from back there, you could see just the immense scale and scope of this project. But as we can see in these images, the black columns are going to be the support columns for the coaster track. The grey steel here in these photos is going to be visible theming or supportive structures within the door warehouse themselves as part of the in-universe story. And the copper-coloured steel is going to be the building structural framing, which won't be visible by the guests. And speaking of that, BioReconstruct also got a photo of the construction staging site, which is behind the back of World Showcase for this roller coaster. And there's some curious looking door frame pieces that are wrapped up, staged in that same area. So potentially we might be seeing some of the themed elements also show up within the staging site there, and we'll know for certain soon enough when they start to show up on the actual construction site and implemented in place. But they're moving very quickly on this project, and if you're wondering about the track layout and other details about this roller coaster attraction in terms of the scale and scope of this project, I previously did a video on this a couple of months ago, which I'll put a link to down below in the description box so you can go check that out as well. But they are moving very fast on this project, and I think personally, judging by what I saw on the construction site, I think this might be opening in 2028, and that's just my own personal speculation. I think they're going to stay away from doing phased openings of lands, and if they open it all together, I think it's most likely going to be 2028, just judging by what I've seen and the state of construction so far. Now, you've probably all seen at this point on social media, the Walt Disney Studios courtyard has officially opened, and this is a massive improvement over what was there previously with Animation Courtyard, and it's going to be a big win when the Magic of Disney Animation opens, which, speaking of which, we got to walk inside the Magic of Disney Animation building, which is going to be opening later this summer in Hollywood Studios, and the Imagineers are carefully considering every aspect of this building to try and make it the best place for families with young children. There's an indoor playground which is going to be themed to Alice in Wonderland in that Mary Blair design style, and this is actually a part of the building which wasn't previously guest accessible when it was Star Wars Launch Bay. They've opened up more of the building here to actually incorporate this indoor playground. But also this is a big win for parents, because this is going to have lots of benches around the playground for you to sit and watch your little ones as they play. There's going to be charging ports for your devices, so as you're relaxing you can charge up your phones, and also there's air conditioning, which is a big deal at Hollywood Studios. There's nowhere else you can go and sit and just enjoy some air conditioning and let the little ones play, so that's fantastic. And also there's a single entrance and exit to this indoor playground, so you can keep your eyes on them and make sure they don't leave the playground without you knowing about it. So very well thought out from that perspective. There's also going to be 6 meet and greets within the Magic of Disney Animation, and all of the meet and greets are themed around the animation process. So for hand-drawn animation, there's going to be a huge animator's desk behind the actual set to take photos in front of. For layout, where you can see Rapunzel on the screen, this is going to be representing the multi-plane camera as part of the animation process as well. So they're really getting playful with the character sets, but this is very open, this whole space, and it's very easy to judge the length of queue before you commit to saying let's go meet Donald or Daisy or whichever characters they have within this area. And as you can see within the map here, upstairs within a former launch bay area, they're opening it up into kind of a lounge area for you to sit and relax, whilst also having that fishbowl design, which is being brought back from what was previously the Magic of Disney Animation with the animators' desks, but this time you can let the little ones look through the windows at the characters with the meet and greets before you commit to saying let's go meet one of the characters. So very well thought out from that perspective. And then there's also going to be a theatre where they'll be playing the Once Upon a Studio animated short, and obviously there's going to be Olaf Draws, which is the animation experience with the Olaf animatronic leading you in an animation class. And the animatronic has apparently 20 functions, and Olaf will be drawing on his pad in real time as you're also sketching out the characters on the screens. And for those who are huge fans of Walt Disney Animation, the whole building has been designed to have references to all 66 of the Walt Disney Animation Studios film catalogue. So it kind of becomes a kind of Easter egg hunt to try and find all the different references. And there's even a reference to the new movie that's coming out in November of this year with the character of Billy from Hexed. So even the latest animation movies are going to be represented within this whole building here. And so that's everything from the construction tours, but now let's keep this construction update going. So let's talk about Tropical Americas over at Animal Kingdom, as this is coming along very fast. And as we can see here from these photos taken from the bridge entering into the former Dino Land area within Animal Kingdom, you can see that the show building for the Encanto attraction has been fully enclosed, with the sides being put on that building. And rest assured, this show building is not going to be visible from anywhere within the park. So the whole of the exterior of the building is going to be hidden from within the park. As we can see in the model, the exterior of the building is going to be themed to a Colombian mountainous landscape that will be hiding the show building. And so from the ground view perspective, walking up into Tropical Americas, you're going to be able to see the mountainous landscape kind of beckoning you down further into the land. And it will be a really great vista to kind of gaze at and kind of build the environmental theming here within Animal Kingdom. And then also, as we can see in these photos from BioReconstruct, the Madrigal's casita has gone vertical, and judging by just seeing the construction workers within the site here, this looks to be almost true to scale representation of the casita like you can see within the movie. So it doesn't seem like it's relying all too much on forced perspective to bring the casita to life. So don't think it's going to be anything like the Beast Castle forced perspective on top of Be Our Guest. It's going to be very impressive to see the casita in real life in what looks to be true to scale representation within the land. And then elsewhere within Tropical Americas, we can see that the hand-carved animal carousel is taking shape as well, with some of the steel framework going up for that. And then the big deal here for this construction update is Indiana Jones, as the attraction retheme from Dinosaur to Indiana Jones is making very good progress from the outside. As we can see, the steel framework for what will be the Mayan temple in front of the former Dino Institute building. And the framework itself looks to be nearing completion. And this is very important because Imagineering have actually been prefabricating the temple themed finish, exterior, as we can see here in these photos from BioReconstruct. So this process of being able to work on the theming and also the steel framework at the same exact time means that they're quickening up the process for the themed exterior of the Mayan temple here. And they'll just drive them into location and probably lift them up by crane and just lower them into place onto the steel framework, and before you know it, you've got the temple there in its finished form for this brand new Indiana Jones attraction at Animal Kingdom. So very exciting to see that take shape within Tropical Americas as well. But then we need to move over to Magic Kingdom, because there's a lot of construction going on over there as well, with Piston Peak and also the Villains Land construction that's in the earlier stages of its construction. And as we can see with the Cars-themed Piston Peak National Park area, the continuation of the concrete retention wall for the water system that will flow around the outside of Piston Peak is still being poured and installed into place, because they need to get that part of the infrastructure completed first, because it'll be a big headache having to go back in there and do it later on. And if you're wondering about more details about Piston Peak National Park, I recently did a video discussing the entire layout of the attraction and the rally race and how it's all going to work with the cave system and the snow-capped mountains of Piston Peak, and how that's actually going to be visible from Liberty Square. As you can see in this image right here, imagine for a moment there's a snow-capped mountain and a waterfall framing the back of the riverboat dock as you walk down into Liberty Square. And the entrance into Piston Peak from Liberty Square is going to be this location that you can see here to the side of the riverboat dock. At least that's what I worked out from looking at the layout and the artwork that's been released for this land. So that's from a previous video. I'll leave a link down below in the description box so you can go check it out for yourself. And when I was making that video, I was looking at the permits that had been released for the Magic Kingdom expansion project here for Villains Land and Piston Peak. And I had the realization that the outlines that we can see within the permit might not be show buildings, but they might instead be the approximate attraction area of these attractions. So the actual outlines themselves aren't showing a show building size, as we can see with the kind of shape of the rally race overlaid into the layout of Piston Peak. It's kind of reflecting the overall scale of the attraction there and the shape of the attraction, which then brings me on to Villains Land and speculation about this, because previously we've talked about building 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 within that area, and we've been talking about these outlines as if they're buildings. And I think that these outlines now, if they are attraction perimeters instead, that opens it up to not seeing building 1 as the show building for a big indoor dark ride, but it makes it possible that could be the location of a Villains Land roller coaster in that top right hand corner behind the back of Haunted Mansion there. Because if that is approximately around 100,000 square feet of space in that location, that would be a very sizable location for a roller coaster in that area. So who knows? It just opens up a lot more possibilities knowing that these outlines are not necessarily finalized outlines of the buildings. Instead, they're probably attraction areas. So interesting from that perspective. There's a lot of land clearing going on with Villains Land, and as you can see with these construction images, there's not much more to talk about except for the land clearing, and hopefully we start to see some of the foundations go in to this construction site fairly shortly, especially considering that they are probably going to be targeting something like 2029 for this project, so we will probably start to see some foundation work begin by the end of this year. And so with that being said, that's everything for today, but now it's over to you, the Waltineers. I would like to know, what are your thoughts and opinions on this Monstropolis that's being brought to life at Hollywood Studios, and what other kind of thematic elements would you like to see included within Monstropolis to kind of bring the world to life within Hollywood Studios? And of course, if you're new to this channel, be sure to subscribe down below, hit the notification bell, and check out the rest of the videos on this channel as well. And also a massive thank you to the official Waltineer Club over on Patreon for always supporting this channel. It's greatly appreciated. And also a huge shout out to the official Waltineer Gold members that you can see here on the screen right now, as well as Waltineer Diamond members JC Russell, Justin Tupper, and Tim and Stephen Parsons. And with that being said for today, I've been Jack, you've been you, and I'll see you real soon.